I think, and I think many evangelical Christians agree with me, that they didn't deal with the issue of the temple properly. And I am not believing in priesthoods, animal sacrifice, all that kind of stuff. But there are certain symbolic things that are very meaningful to the people, that are very important for spirit, Elaine, an excited allegiance and passionate feeling of commitment, put it that way. Now, when the Jews went through the Six-Day War in 1967, I witnessed that. I went to Israel the next week, not because I wanted to go there. I had already been planned to go on a Hebrew language course for my graduate studies. I thought I wouldn't be able to go, but the war was over so quickly I was able to go. It was a program that I won a fellowship for. And I went, and I was there after the Six-Day War, and I saw the situation. And they gave the Temple Mount back to the Arabs or Muslims or Palestinians, whatever you want to call them. They weren't called Palestinians much at that time. Almost in an ill-considered manner. They didn't consider Diane, who was the defense minister, wanted to make the grand jest, sort of like the kind of thing that you think is important, and said, give the Muslims back the Temple Mount. Now, many evangelical Christians feel that that's a terrible error, and I frankly believe that for the Jewish people, it was probably a devastating error in terms of, because I don't think any self-respecting people would have done that. If you're going to go through all this suffering, and you're going to go back to the homeland of your fathers and so on, and you have the good fortune to take in very fairly bloodless manner the thing people have been praying for 2,000 years, and then you just give it back to someone else who it isn't even that important to, because they make a big thing of the Temple Mount now, but basically Mecca and Medina and the Shiite shrines in Iraq are important. Temple Mount was a never important shrine in Islam. It's a very secondary affair. And it's a central affair to the Jewish people. Doesn't mean you should throw Muslims off it or anything like that, but you certainly should not have ceded a sovereignty over it if you in fact were a Zionist. Now, the problem is that these people were not ideological. The people in Israel were labor Zionists, people who had come to where they were at through a socialist view of the world, and they felt you didn't need these symbols. You didn't need these trappings. I think that that is going to be a very unfortunate decision in the next 100 years. There's no way to change that now. There's no way to go back in time. There's no way to revert that. This is what you were saying and what we were saying. There's a time taken out its flood leads on to fortune. You can't like do the Lebanon war the way they did things and so on, pounding downtown Beirut and stuff like that. It's a wrong time. It's the wrong strategy. And I don't think they're ever going to be able to undo that. And that's going to have ultimately a very unnerving effect on the Jewish people and a very exciting effect on the Muslim world if they are in possession of that area. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. All I'm trying to say is that if you care about the spiritual effect of things, some decisions are not taken in a wise way. If you want to be fair, you can say, okay, you control your part of it, we'll control our part of it, blah, blah, blah. There are ways of working out fairness, but to have ceded that whole area back when it was the central love of your whole people for so long, and you have the Wailing Wall that they were sort of crying at, if you like, for 20 centuries, to my mind is a tremendous historical error. And this is what Mendelssohn's saying here. Either you're going to be a landed people, and sometimes landed people do pretty nasty things, or things that aren't totally fair, like America has done in going from New Jersey to California, and certainly the Mexicans and Native Americans have been borne the brunt of a lot of that. Either you're going to be a landed people for better or for worse, and we all live here in California on stolen ground, let's face it. And I don't want to get into that issue. But we're happy to be here, unfortunately, and so I don't have any way to resolve this issue. But the Jews are either going to be a landed people, or they're going to be what he's talking about here. And he feels that this is all in the past. outside of Judea, without temple, you see, temple or priesthood, there can be neither sacrifices or these kinds of things. These depend on possession of the land. He never envisioned a situation where they would possess the land again. You see, so they never faced this issue. But personal commandments, duties imposed upon every son of Israel, which are unrelated to temple service, land ownership, and Palestine, must, as far as I can see, be observed. And so on and so forth. So he has, without realizing, an anticipated serious problem. Let me just keep you for 5 more minutes if I can. Now, next page. You, my brothers, and don't quote me on what I said about the temple. I don't know if it was historically possible, if it was strategically correct. I just think it's going to turn out to be a very spiritually and morale-wise undermining of the whole enterprise. And I'm not sure what the effect will find. I've got to go on here. I don't know what the effect will be. I hope I'm wrong and that what they did is the correct thing. But I'm not sure if it is the correct thing. I don't think that Rabbinic Judaism wanted to restore the sacrifice cult. I don't think they should restore the sacrifice cult. But there are modern ways to make things symbolically important without cutting animals' throats and things. Okay, and you, my brothers and fellow men who are followers of the teaching of Jesus, how can you blame us for doing what the founder of our religion himself has done and sanctioned by his authority? Can you seriously believe that you cannot reciprocate our love as citizens and associate yourselves with us for civic purposes, as long as we're outwardly distinguished from you by our ceremonial law, that is, whatever Hasidic Jews might look like, and do not eat with you and do not marry? As far as we can see, the founder of your religion himself would not have done these things or permitted us to do them either. He's basically saying, look, I don't think Jesus probably was any different than we are. If we can be united with you as citizens, here's his plea, you see. Only on the condition that we deviate from the law, which we still consider binding, then we sincerely regret the necessity of declaring that we shall renounce our claim to civil union with it. That is basically what Herzl says a century later. It's not that long. This is 1780s. Herzl is functioning in the late 1890s, beginning of the 1900s. Herzl saying, there's no hope here. We have to get out. And he's gripped by a passion because he sees a terrible disaster in the wings. And in that sense, he's terribly clear-sighted because he doesn't deceive himself. He thinks a disaster is coming of unimaginable proportions, and any way that we can get the job done, he wants to get it done. It's called practical or political Zionism. Anyway, so he ends up here. Brothers, if you care for true godliness, let us not pretend that